What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Ilia Topuria breaks silence on Paddy Pimblett interaction. For years, there was no love lost between Paddy Pimblett and Ilia Topuria. Between a physical fight week altercation in 2022 and a handful of online exchanges, it appeared to be pretty clear that the two genuinely did not like one another. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. But despite all that, the pair seemed to be on pretty good terms when they ran into one another on stage for the UFC London 2025 weigh-ins a few weeks ago. Considering their beef was sparked by comments Pimblett made about the country of Georgia, the MMA community was pretty floored by the cordial run-in. After Pimblett shared his side of the story, the fighter formerly known as El Matador shared his side of the story during an interview with Marca. "We just weren't in our fighting roles. I went to support a friend of mine. He went to support another friend of his. Then we met and we greeted each other. At the end of the day, we are athletes, but if we enter the field of combat and we have to fight, then the story changes." Although back in 2022, Paddy said that he didn't think the two would ever actually share the octagon, with the baddie looking to pick up the biggest victory of his career against Michael Chandler and Topuria becoming an instant contender at 155, never say never. Dana White and the UFC revealed there will be a huge announcement later today on social media. Keep in mind it's April 1st, so let's not hope it's an April Fool's joke. There's a chance we might upload again today when the announcement is revealed, so make sure to like and subscribe and turn on notifications to stay up to date. New UFC 315 fight announced. When the Octagon heads to Quebec for the UFC 315 Muhammad JDM card in May, Benoit Saint-Denis will reportedly look to get back in the win column when he collides with Joel Alvarez. Reporter Alvaro Colmenero broke the news on Monday on the heels of a February 20th report that he shared on social media indicating that a fight between Alvarez and BSD was in the works. Saint-Denis lost both of his fights in 2024, falling to Dustin Poirier in March, before then wrapping up the year with a loss to Renato Moicano in front of his fellow countrymen. On the flip side, Alvarez won back-to-back fights in 2024, finishing Elvis Brenner in August and Drakkar Klose in December. While he won't have a number next to his name come fight night, if he's able to pick up a win over number 13 ranked Benoit Saint-Denis, he could wind up making a splash on the lightweight rankings. Charles Oliveira not interested in fighting Justin Gaethje. After his win over Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira is all in on a title shot, whether it's against Islam Makhachev for the lightweight title or Max Holloway for the BMF belt. During an interview with Alvaro Colmenero and ABC MMA this week, Oliveira doubled down on his title shot or bust approach while ruling out a fight with Justin Gaethje. "I believe this is not the time because I'm ahead in search of a title, but why not there further forward? It would be a great fight. He's a tough guy like I am too. We had a great fight, I just won, but I'm looking forward, not back. It's not the time. I'm looking for the title fight." Of course, as Ariel Helwani has theorized, the UFC may be waiting to see how things play out between Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena in May before booking Makhachev's next fight. If he winds up moving up to 170 to fight JDM before the end of the year, look for Oliveira to either wind up in an interim title fight or a BMF title fight with Max Holloway, who said back in January that he wants to defend the ceremonial title against Du Bronx on this summer's International Fight Week card. In the case of Justin Gaethje, the highlight could then wind up fighting either Dan Hooker this summer or running things back with Dustin Poirier for the Diamond's final fight. Garry talks about Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. Ilia Topuria has been firing verbal shots at Charles Oliveira in recent days, and while it remains to be seen if the two will fight, Ian Machado Garry believes it would be a massive fight. Immediately after it was announced Topuria had vacated the featherweight crown, talk about him possibly fighting Islam Makhachev spiked, but the lightweight king has dismissed the idea that he needs to fight Topuria as part of his legacy. Meanwhile, Charles Oliveira has argued that a rematch between him and Makhachev makes more sense, and Topuria did not care for those comments. El Matador has also relayed that as far as his first lightweight opponent, he's only interested in facing Makhachev or Du Bronx. Well, recently, Irati Pratt SC caught up with Garry, and when asked about a showdown between Oliveira and Topuria, the welterweight contender said this: "A fight with Charles and Ilia would be one of the biggest fights the UFC could ever make. It's a big fight." Of course, there's no question that a fight between Topuria and Oliveira would be big. Topuria has become one of the most discussed commodities in all of MMA, and Oliveira has been a long-time fan favorite. But would it be bigger than Makhachev versus Topuria? Very likely not. But who do you think Topuria will end up facing in his first fight at 155? While we're on the topic of Garry, since we got traumatized from watching this, so do you. Enjoy. Cory Sandhagen talks about beating Merab Dvalishvilli. Back in January, after Merab Dvalishvilli defended the bantamweight title by defeating Umar Nurmagomedov, Cory Sandhagen said that although Umar beat him, styles make fights, and because of that, he's confident that he would be able to beat the machine. During an interview with Luke Thomas this week, Sandhagen explained how with a few tweaks, Umar would have been able to get the win over Dvalishvilli too. If I was Umar and I could refight that fight, he was wrestling with him really good. Some of the defenses to the wrestling were just amazing. Physically being able to be that flexible was crazy. I would say to him, hey man, quit being so jumpy. Stand in the middle of the cage. When Merab backs you up, circle yourself back. Get to the middle of the cage again, and then don't run from him. Hit him when he comes in, and make your movements a lot smaller, because it is all of that footwork that really tires people out. Of course, part of the reason Nurmagomedov may not have been as effective as he hoped inside the octagon is because he wound up breaking his hand early in the bout. While it looks like a rematch between Dvalishvilli and Sean O'Malley will go down sometime this summer, once Sugar is back to 100%, Sandhagen could insert himself into the bantamweight title picture with a win over Deiveson Figueiredo in May. Jorge Masvidal exposes Colby Covington? Before Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington had a bitter falling out, the two were close friends and teammates who were often seen supporting one another throughout fight week. Although Gamebred has his sights set on settling a long-standing beef with Leon Edwards for his big return fight, the original BMF told Ariel Helwani this week that a fight with Colby Covington is never far from his mind. While weighing in on the former interim champion's loss to Joaquin Buckley back in December, Masvidal revealed that he's not surprised by the loss because he's hearing Covington's gotten into Miami's scene. BS Colby, that's another one too. Whenever I see that guy, I saw the highlights of his recent fight against Joaquin Buckley. I didn't see the entire thing. I liked it. Buck's a good guy. I wasn't surprised. Covington's doing a lot of from what I hear. Man, so it's catching up. God-given ability is the only thing he had, just throwing it away. Not really surprising. If you take a deep dive into him, you could see it in the character. Masvidal also sent a message to Leon Edwards during his appearance on the show, calling on Rocky to settle things once for all. Let's go fix this saga, brother. We always wanted to fight. Let's go throw it down like men, beat your and that's it. So far, there's no word on when Edwards will return to the octagon after his loss to Sean Brady last week. However, given that Masvidal is unranked and has not won a fight since 2019, when he stopped Nate Diaz, the former champion may not be interested in a fight, even if it does give him a chance to get some revenge on Masvidal. In the case of Covington, the former interim champion has not fired back regarding the allegations. However, he's also looking for a fight, and recently called out both the Diaz brothers, Paul Felder and MVP. Rampage Jackson posted a clip of a fan mistaking him for John Jones. Check this out.
Who is this? Who is that?
What's my name?
And you look like John.
John Jones.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Show me. Google John Jones.
Right there. It's the beard.
Yeah, I am John Jones.
You scared my son.
When's your next fight?
April 12th. Hey, how you feel when you found out I wasn't John Jones?
I felt a little stupid, but I felt a little better. Finally getting the name right.
Raul Rosas Jr. sets record at UFC Mexico. Not only did Raul Rosas Jr. set a record at UFC Mexico, he took another big step towards reaching his goal of becoming the youngest UFC champion ever. Rosas Jr. faced Vince Morales at the event, and although he had to battle through some nasty choke attempts, he recorded a unanimous decision victory. With the win, the 20-year-old Rosas Jr. became the youngest fighter to record 5 wins in the octagon. As Fight Geeks also posted, now Rosas Jr. has just over 3 years to beat John Jones' record for being the youngest person ever to win a UFC title. Jones did it when he was 23 years and 8 months old by taking out Shogun Rua at UFC 128. And how did Rosas Jr. feel about his performance? When asked about this during the post-fight presser, he said this: "I grade it an 8 out of 10. I feel like I've got a lot of improve. I'm proud of myself in a way that I managed to stay calm, patient throughout hard positions. I would have liked to finish, but these fights, getting more experience. I'm just 20 years old and I'm still growing and evolving and getting a step closer to the belt." Do you think Rosas Jr. has what it takes to win the title before he turns 23? As of now, he's not ranked in the top 15 of the UFC's top 15. But if he keeps winning, that will change quickly. Darren Till fires back at Mike Perry's comments. For several years, Darren Till and Mike Perry have seemingly been on a collision course. Despite that, somehow, someway, the fights never come to fruition. Back in 2023, Perry said that he's confident the fight will happen in 2024, despite the fact that the former welterweight title challenger made it clear he was not interested in crossing over to bare-knuckle boxing. During an appearance on the Ariel Helwani show this week, Perry offered Till the chance to throw down in his dirty boxing promotion. "It makes me crazy that Till says no to $2 million in bare-knuckle to fight me, and then he fights Anthony Taylor in boxing boxing for like 300K. Let's make that one happen. Darren Till versus Platinum Perry under my banner in Dirty Boxing. We got small glove boxing with elbows and ground and pound. He'll get the padding on his hands. Let's see what numbers we come up with. I'm sure we got the money. Let's make a real fight out of it. Till then wasted no time in responding on social media, writing, I never said no, my friend. I said let's do one boxing fight and let's do one bare knuckle fight. You and your manager never came back to me in my management, so it's on you. If you want to fight, I am here. You are more interested in being a promoter right now, whereas I'm training every day, no distractions, and struggling to get opponent. KSI doesn't answer the phone. Tommy Fury doesn't answer the phone. Jake Paul, same thing. So if you really want the fight that is destined to happen, get your manager to contact Misfits and we can make this happen as a co-promotion. Sound fair? From the sounds of things, only time will tell how things will play out with these negotiations. Today, during an episode of Mike Bond's The Bonfire podcast, Henry Cejudo was on the show. Mike Bond asked him about the infamous Belal Muhammad interview on Pound for Pound. And let's just say things got heated and there was an altercation. Here's what Henry had to say. And before we play the clip, make sure to check out Mike Bond's amazing podcast in the description below.
It was, I almost got kicked, bro. Like, there's punches were thrown, dude. And I had a messed up ankle at that time. So Kamaru Usman and Belal, dude. Belal almost kicked me to my head, dude. Luckily, I did a little slip, but yeah, it was definitely rated R.
Joe Rogan demands UFC rule change. During an episode of Joe Rogan's podcast, he said that the UFC's rules on strikes to the back of the head should be legal and compared it to other places on your head that are vulnerable but legal to strike, like the eye socket. Here's what Rogan had to say. And before we continue, we have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day.
You know, Eddie Bravo's talked about this all the time. The old days of MMA, when a guy got someone's back, they would just drop elbows down on his head. Back of the head. If you have your back and the head is there, all this punching just to the side is not realistic because you realize you can't just lie flat on your back. You're like, you better protect the back of your neck because it's very, very vulnerable. So guys would have to, when they lie on the back or lie on their stomach, they have to protect their fucking head, and then they would have to try to roll.
Yes,
they would have to do something to get out of that position, instead of just realizing that you can kind of hold there and cover the sides of your faces because you could leave the back of your head exposed. I mean, I'm sure if you talk to a neuroscientist, they say that's a particularly vulnerable area, but man, isn't the temple, aren't the eyes? Everything is so vulnerable, and all those illegal. You could elbow a dude in the eye socket, 100% legal. So explain to me why the back of the head is so much more vulnerable. I don't get it.